Before we talk about brands or fabrics or measurements, I think the really important question to answer is what the heck am I looking for, anyways? Otherwise, online thrifting can turn into impulse buying really fast. Today, I want to share with you my personal approach to thrifting online, not just what I look for, but how I decide what it is worth looking for in the first place. One thing I have started doing, it's been 3 or 4 years now, is keeping a clothing notebook, and that has helped me a lot. And I will delve deep into that in some future videos because it's really fun. It doesn't have to be a fancy notebook. Mine is like a little composition notebook from Walmart. I think it was 25 cents. Or it could be the notes on your phone, whatever. But I keep a list there of what I'm looking for. I have a list of things that I would love to acquire. I have a list of things that I need. I have a list of things that I want. I have notes in there about like what kind of thing, what kind of life I lead and what kind of clothes support that life. Instead of just buying something because it looks cute, I'm buying things, hopefully most of the time, that are supporting the life I actually lead. And color palettes, I have lists of color palettes in there too. So it's all kind of in my head now. I've kept it for so long that I kind of know what colors I'm looking for, what things, but I do love to pull that out from time to time. It's also fun to look back over the years and see like what I was obsessed with in 2022. And some of it I've gotten, and some of it I'm like, why did I even want that? Anyway, so I'll start with what is it that I'm actually looking for. Having that clarity changes everything about how you're thrifting online because you're not just mindlessly scrolling, you're actually searching with purpose. So the first thing I do is I search topically. So instead of just kind of opening up Depop or Vinted and seeing what they're showing me in my feed, or just randomly looking around, I'll have something in mind when I start, like plaid wool A-line skirt. That's something that I'm definitely on the hunt for these days. So I'll type that in, and right away, right off the bat, that narrows things down quite a bit. And the keyword searches on these apps, it just keeps getting better and better. So when I type in plaid wool A-line skirt, I find that I'm getting good results like right away, but then I'll narrow down from there. Once I've got that initial topical search, I'll start narrowing by brands. I have certain brands that I like, know, and trust. I know that they fit me well. I have other pieces of theirs. And because I'm online, I'm much less willing to take a chance on a brand I don't know because, getting stuff shipped and then if it doesn't work, returning it or being stuck with it, it's more, it's more risky than if you're in person and you can just try something on. If you don't like it, put it back. So for that reason, I tend to be more conservative with my brands online. So I will go to the filters and I'll check off the brands that I like. And then I will also, if I'm on Depop or Vinted or one of those peer-to-peer sites, I will always filter for American vintage, and I will filter for ILGWU, which stands for International Ladies Garment Workers Union. That one especially will pull up some of the most beautiful quality pieces back in the good old days when most of our garments here in America were made right in New York City in the garment district by ladies who were in a union. The clothing from that period, the quality is just, it's so beautiful. I love getting ILGWU pieces. So I will filter for all that, and then I'll start looking again. And then with sizing, I will filter by my size, except that with the vintage ones, you have to be careful because sizing has, as you all know, it's changed so much. It changes a lot from brand to brand, but especially with the vintage stuff, like a vintage 10 is more like a modern day 6 in my experience. So when it comes to the vintage pieces, I always want to see the real actual measurements, which most sellers these days, they're getting better and better about posting the real measurements if they're selling vintage. And if they don't, and I really like the piece, I will direct message and ask them. And most of the time, they'll measure it for me and get right back to me. If they don't, I will just give it a pass because it's too big of a risk. I have a couple beautiful vintage dresses in my closet from when I didn't know any better that are just way too small and they're so beautiful. I'm going to save them for my daughter. I think they'll fit her one day, but I don't think they're ever going to fit me, sadly. Okay, so after all that, after I've filtered for brand and size and topic, piece of clothing, then I will start looking at fabric and brand era. So of course I prefer natural fabrics just because they wear better, they age better, they look nicer. If it's a brand that I like and they tend to use some proprietary blended fabrics, like for example, this is a dress from Faherty brand that is some kind of blended fabric. Well, I love Faherty brand. I find their quality to be really good. I like this particular fabric, even if it is somewhat synthetic. It drapes really well. I like it. That's fine. I know that. So I'm willing to like trust that in brands that I know. But generally speaking, I'm looking for wool, cotton, linen, cashmere, leather, and not every online thrift site can you filter by fabric, unfortunately, but if you can, I will filter for fabric. And if you can't, then I'll just have to read the listing to see. And I especially really want to see a picture of the fabric tag. And if I don't see one, I will direct message the seller and ask, what is this made out of? And if I don't get a response, I'll just move on. But a lot of times they will respond, or they'll even better, they'll respond with a picture of the fabric tag. So that's nice. A little bit about era. So in my experience, older is usually better. And this is not just nostalgia. It's just something I've experienced. Like, for example, everything that Pendleton used to make was made in the USA. It was made from wool, from their woolen mills. Well, the brand still exists, but now the more contemporary pieces, they make things from, it's still the Pendleton label, but it'll often be a blended fabric. It'll be an imported fabric. It'll say made in China. And I don't find the quality to be as good, sadly. I don't know exactly when the cutoff is for that quality, but I kind of connect it to when fast fashion really just took over, probably in 2010 on, when it just became a craze. I hope someday that we can get off of this fast fashion and back to, beautiful quality made pieces made by people who were paid well for what they are doing. I really hope we get back to that. But in the meantime, yes, I will pay attention to the era of something. I love seeing things from vintage 90s. It doesn't feel vintage to me. That's why I'm laughing. The 90s still feels like it was just yesterday. I know some of you can relate. And then really quickly, I just want to address, this was so interesting to me. So last week I talked about ThredUp and Depop, and a lot of you have really strong feelings about ThredUp. But reading through the comments, it was interesting. So I totally get that. I get the frustration. I really, truly do. I still like ThredUp. I just think that you have to understand why you're using ThredUp or Depop, and I'm just going to speak to that a little bit. So ThredUp, I think swap.com is another. They're like online consignment stores where, the dealer and the consignee are splitting the proceeds. So that drives the prices of everything up. And then it's more of a curated experience because, ThredUp's requirements they're very strict. Like, the clothes have to be relatively new, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas on Depop or Vinted, it's more the Wild West. Like anyone can make an account and you can upload and try to sell pretty much anything you want. There's no gatekeeping in that way. So if you just like in real life, if you go to a consignment store, I always think of them as pricey consignment stores. So they tend to be more expensive unless you head straight to the back and go to the dollar discount rack, like a couple of my local stores have. Love the dollar discount rack. You can find some real gems back there sometimes. But yeah, they're more expensive and it's more of a curated experience. And sometimes I need that, and that's what I need when I'm looking for clothes. Just for whatever, there's a host of reasons why that might be so. And then the other time I don't, And I really want a real thrifted experience. I want eclectic. I want to find some vintage stuff. I want to find a steal. I want to find a diamond in the rough. And that's where the peer-to-peer selling sites, Depop, Vinted, Poshmark, although they can be pretty high too, because that's kind of a hybrid. Anyway, that's a whole other story. But anyway, there's a variety of flavors to online thrifting or online consignment shopping, I guess you could say. And I think you just have to know what that particular platform it has to offer and what you can use it for before you. That's a long-winded way of saying each platform has its place, and I love that we have all the choice, and I think it's up to us to just use each one in a way that serves us the best. And if one doesn't serve you, then just don't go on there. I mean, that's fine. In thrifting, I think it works best when you go slowly and when you have specific pieces that you're looking for and you have a good idea of your own measurements and what kind of brands you like and what kind of fabrics you like and what kind of style you like. And all that being said, I feel like I need to teach you guys more about creating a clothing notebook and getting to know your own personal style. So I will be working on that in future videos. In the meantime, I've got 2 freebies. They're checklists to help you thrift in real life. One is for real life thrift stores and one is for online thrift and consignment stores. I will link both of those freebies down below, and I will pop up the QR codes here on the screen in case you just want to scan it and go get those. I'm working on a thrifted clothing wardrobe champagne taste Bible. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to call it yet. When that's ready, which is hopefully going to be very soon, y'all will be the first to know, especially if you've signed up for the freebies. Then I will definitely make sure and let you know when that is ready. I'm really excited to share that with you guys. So keep your eyes peeled for that. In the meantime, let me know in the comments. I have loved hearing about your experiences and tips and tricks and strategies for finding what it is that you want to wear by thrifting, either online or in person. So let's talk about it in the comments. I hope that this was helpful, and I will see you all again next week. And I hope you have a wonderful week. Take care. Bye for now.